topic is Physis, Metaphysis, or physics, metaphysics. It is mostly a dull topic for the majority and unnecessary, even though many hold beliefs and worldviews that presuppose a metaphysics they personally do not know anything about, and they cannot validate or justify. They just believe in what they believe, and they assume what they've assumed. For example, a religion is a form of metaphysics for the layman, delivered in a style they could understand, in a narrative they can relate to. So let's begin. Metaphysics is most often used by conmen, charlatans, grifters, as an imaginary location outside space-time, outside the experience world, or what they most often call the material world, the tangible world, to justify beliefs they cannot justify in any other way. So this is the place where everybody can simply place their presumptions necessary to validate the worldview they cannot validate by using the experience world. And this is why in nihilism it is their starting point. For instance, the Platonic ideal world is a metaphysical world. That is a world that exists outside the physical. I call this top-down thinking, in that it begins with a conclusion, a metaphysical conclusion, and then it works backwards, using a selective approach to the experience world to validate this presupposed conclusion. Whereas my metaphysics not only does not require such realm, such a metaphysical realm existing outside space-time, but it does not begin with the conclusion, but begins with the physical world, and then works itself up to the metaphysical. The metaphysical is like a foundation. The higher your ideology, your worldview, the deeper your metaphysical foundations should be in order to stabilize it. High ideals require deep metaphysical foundations as supportive of this edifice. To begin with, I define existence as a state of dynamic interactivity, or as I call it, energy. All is energy, I say. That implies a state of constant interactivity, constant flux. And therefore my metaphysics will abide by this starting definition. In other words, my metaphysics will be no less dynamic and interactive, and indirectly perceptible. So in my worldview, the cosmos is all energy, as I say, but this energy is divided into two types. There's the order and the chaotic, the patterned energies and non-patterned energies. Now, modern metaphysics usually call chaos complexity. That is, they imply that the entire cosmos is ordered. That is governed by natural law, which is another way of returning back to the idea of a one God. Only in this case, man can no longer sin or feel ashamed for breaking God's laws, because one can never break the cosmic laws, or what they call natural laws. So if everything is ordered, then everything is governed by natural laws. And this leaves no room for free will, for human agency. So whatever man does, this is what moderns hope, is in accordance with natural law. So there's nothing to make amends for. There's no primordial sin. No matter what you do, what you say, what you think, it's all been determined. So it's all natural. No matter what kind of sick impulses you have, it's all natural because it's all in accordance with natural law. So we go from using shame and guilt as a weapon to the modern who is now totally shameless and guiltless. That means he is innocent no matter what he does, because he has no agency, you see. He is just a product of what has been determined, and he has no choice in the matter. This is what they want to believe, and I've explored this in my monologue on free will, so I will not go into it here. In my metaphysics, chaos refers to the energies that lack a pattern. That is, they are the opposite of order. So they're not only complex, but they are pattern energies that have no pattern. So they have no order. And that implies that life and its agency is not only advantageous, it is necessary. My cosmology has ancient roots. From ancient times, they believe that out of chaos, order emerges, and back to chaos, order returns. This is part of the Hindu cycle, what they call the yugas. And I quote here: central to the Hindu cosmic cycle is the concept of yugas, which are four distinct ages that represent different phases of moral and spiritual development in humanity. I would say also cosmic cycles. The yugas are the Satya Yuga, the Golden Age; the Treta Yuga, the Silver Age; the Dvapara Yuga, the Bronze Age; and the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. And in addition to the yugas, Hindu cosmology includes the concept of kalpas, which are vast periods of time. A single kalpa of day of Brahma lasts for 4.32 billion years, followed by a period of dissolution, pralaya, of equal length. Each kalpa consists of 1,000 cycles of yugas, and after each cycle, the universe undergoes a process of renewal and rebirth. Now, in my cosmology, the black holes and the Big Bang are part of a cosmic iteration of universes. Each universe is a cosmic iteration. But I'm not going to go into that either. And it has to do basically with my understanding of chaos and order. So, in my metaphysics, chaos is what is intangible, imperceptible, and beyond the tangible and perceptible. In other words, beyond order, there is chaos. And chaos exists in real time. It's interactive and dynamic, and it affects and it is affected in return. So it exists. It meets the criteria of existing. It is imperceptible because organisms are self-ordering. They are made of patterns, so they can only perceive patterns. And actually, we measure IQ by the perception of patterns. And by this, I mean that life can only perceive what is ordered, what has a pattern. And this pattern it interprets as a different types of matter. And in this sense, there is matter as an interpretation of energy patterns. There is no indivisible, immutable thing. There's only a process, a pattern which the living organism has evolved to process and perceive and interpret as types of matter. So chaos, by lacking a pattern, is imperceptible, and this the mind interprets as an absence, a void, a blackness. It also perceives complexity and patterns that are too subtle for them to process. So this is where the confusion arises, and complexity is defined as being chaos, when in fact it is imperceptible order, which, like I said, implies that the entire cosmos is ordered, when it's not. Because if it were, then life would have no way of evolving unless we claim that the cosmos has life as its telos, as its objective, which brings us back to the Abrahamic spiritual beliefs of creationism. Therefore, since living organisms can only perceive order and depend on order to survive and find order attractive, and call higher forms of order beautiful, it would follow that for such an organism, the entire cosmos, all of existence, would appear to be ordered, when in fact this is not the case. The idea of randomness is an idea that fills such a species, a life form, with anxiety, because it implies that existence, there's factors of existence that are eternally imperceptible and unpredictable, and the unpredictable is terrifying for an organism that depends on predictability, because that's what order is. Because a pattern is order, and order is predictable and consistent. And another way to saying this is probability. And chaos is not. It's the opposite of that. It's unpredictable and unreliable, unforeseeable. And this is what terrifies man, and this is why, for man, it would be preferable if the fall of existence had some kind of order in it. That is, it could be rational, it's reasonable, whereas the chaotic is irrational, unreasonable, and eternally unpredictable. And this is terrifying, like I said, for an organism so reliant on pattern. Even an organism's behavior is predictable and reliable and consistent. And although chaos cannot be directly perceived, it can be indirectly perceived through its effects on order. Through its effects on the perceptible, we can perceive the interactions of chaos with what we perceive as order. And this effect we call change, and we measure it using time. So in this worldview, we don't need a Platonic realm. We don't need a outside of existence. We don't need a groundless grounding. We don't need anything existing in contradiction of our perception of existence, because most often this metaphysical realm is in opposition to our experience world. whereas we perceive the world to be mutable and fluctuating, we imagine this metaphysical realm to be immutable and static and perfect and ideal. And like I said, the Platonic cave is the human skull, and that's the only place where such a world, such an ideal world exists as a vague concept. And it exists there because of the manner in which consciousness reduces the existent to a form it could process and store. So it is the human brain that creates these static, uniform, complete wholes, these singularities, these abstractions. And they exist nowhere else but in the human mind. And there they exist only as obscure and vague. But this is the case for many things. It's only in the human mind where absurdities can exist, and fantastic creatures can exist, and paradoxes can exist. Because what is exactly an abstraction? An abstraction is a simplification or a generalization, reducing the perceived to a level that the organic mind, like I said, can process and then store as memory. And this is most often where these metaphysical realms exist. They exist in the human mind. Collectivized, of course, because these concepts become collective narratives, collective ideals. Whereas in my worldview, the metaphysical need not exist in the human mind. In fact, it requires no mind at all. It exists whether there's a mind there or not. In other words, it exists independent of all subjectivity. It exists objectively. It exists in every iteration of the cosmic cycle, even the ones that don't produce life. So in Eastern philosophy is where I find more agreement, and in the concept of yin and yang. Within every within order there is chaos, and within chaos there is order. And this is exactly the cycles, the cosmic cycles. From chaotic interactions, order emerges, and then from the interactions of order, attrition is produced, and through this attrition chaos increases until the process repeats. If you think about it and you ask, how could life have emerged out of lifeless matter? And the only way that I can think of is that out of random interactions. And how do mutations arise to produce complex organs like the eye or the brain? Again, through chaotic interactions, random events, unpredictable events. This is the only way. This is the only way life, or what we know as life, could have emerged out of the interactions of lifeless energies. So in this sense, chaos is both our benefactor and our destroyer. It both makes life possible and makes consciousness advantageous and necessary. And it also leads to our demise, our death, and the end of the universe before a new universe begins again and again and again. No God existing in beyond space-time, no groundless grounding existing also beyond space-time. It's all explicable within space-time, within causality. And this is why I believe my worldview is more realistic, even if not as comforting. So to sum up, order equals the physical, the tangible, the experienced, the grounding, the first stage. And from this we proceed to the metaphysical, which is chaotic, and it's underlying, it's imperceptible, unpredictable. These two forces of energy, general categories of energy, and how they interact is what manifests as the existent, as presence. And what this implies is that as time progresses, we are moving towards increasing chaos and decreasing order. This is what we call the arrow of time, linear time. So from near absolute order, before or preceding the Big Bang, we have this inflation caused by an imperfection in this order, which is chaos, and this explosion, and then expansion in space as possibilities, and this gradually tending towards absolute disorder, which itself cannot be finalized, as I've noted many times in other monologues. So as we proceed from near absolute order towards near absolute disorder, a life emerges somewhere there in between those two, that moving from one to the other. And this is what we are now, in this in between. Because as we go towards increasing disorder, this will make life impossible, because that decreasing order means there will be no life, and life requires order. Just as life would be impossible or unnecessary in a state close to absolute order, life emerges as a reaction to chaos. It is made necessary, or it is made advantageous. Its advantage is the product of disorder, of imperfection, if you will. So the idea of that everything is perfect is an absurdity. It's another human mythology. It is imperfection that makes existence possible. And this is why we experience existence as a state of suffering. In this sense, metaphysics has become for those who want to hold on to the idea of perfection, or Plato's ideal, or God, as it has been called. The idea of a perfect being, omnipotent and omniscient. Or as it has become within secular ideologies, the idea of absolute order. Both these absolutes exist only, like I said, in the human mind. And if they were to exist outside the human mind, then all of existence would cease. So in this sense, man is fighting on the side of the forces of order. He is an agency of order. And this is why Kazantzakis, in his one of his books, his little book that I read once called Metaphysis, I believe, he described man as a warrior fighting on the side of God, on the side of the divine. So the Olympian gods were such manifestations of order, fighting against the forces of chaos. So in this sense, Heraclitus was right. that the father of everything is war, because we can think of this as the eternal war, or as the Greeks called it, agon, the struggle.